therapist Kristen Jacobson.
Do you ever feel like your life looks great, but you still wake up anxious for seemingly no reason? Let's talk about the hidden link between perfectionism and childhood trauma. So let's name one thing up front. Perfectionism is not a personality trait. It's not about loving clean spreadsheets or color-coded calendars. It's not about having high standards. It's a survival strategy. And more often than not, it's rooted in unprocessed childhood trauma. I know, trauma feels like a big word, but I'm not necessarily talking about a single catastrophic event. Trauma can actually be the chronic emotional tone of your childhood, the subtle ongoing stress of feeling unseen, feeling emotionally responsible for others, or feeling only conditionally accepted. So you don't have to remember being overtly neglected or abused for this to apply to you. Emotional trauma lives in the nervous system, not just in the memory bank. And one of the most common long-term side effects, you guessed it, perfectionism. So I've always been a perfectionist, and I used to think perfectionism essentially meant being type A. You know, the kind of person who rewrites emails 3 times before sending, or who never misses a deadline, or who organizes the pantry by both category and color. But here's what I've learned, both in my personal experience and in my work as a therapist. Perfectionism is an emotional safety mechanism. It's how many of us learn to survive environments where being imperfect felt somewhat dangerous. Maybe mistakes weren't tolerated. Maybe praise was rare, but criticism was plentiful. Maybe the only time you got attention was when you were achieving something or being the good one. So your brain, clever as it is, made this unconscious calculation. If I can be flawless, I'll be safe. If I don't mess up, I won't get shamed or abandoned. If I do everything right, I'll finally feel okay. And your nervous system bought into it. And keep in mind, these are not conscious thoughts that you had at the time. These are subconscious messages and beliefs that got ingrained within you. So here's where things get even more interesting. When we experience chronic emotional stress as kids, especially stress that we couldn't escape or fix, like being in a parentified position or being criticized or emotionally ignored, our nervous system shifts into a chronic state of hypervigilance. So this means your body is constantly scanning for threat, even when there is none. It's subtle, but it explains why you might overanalyze everything before you say it, or you feel like you have to be productive even on weekends, or you can't rest because rest feels like a setup for failure, or you replay conversations in your head for days afterward. Then high-functioning anxiety is what happens when that trauma-fueled hypervigilance meets achievement culture. So you look fine, you are fine, at least on paper, but internally you're always bracing for the next mistake or failure or criticism, and perfectionism becomes your armor. So let's talk about that voice in your head. You know the one, the voice that tells you you're lazy if you take a break, that nothing you do is ever quite good enough, that people are secretly judging you, that one typo will destroy your credibility forever. That's not your true self talking. That's a protective part of you, one that developed early on to help you fit in, feel safe, and avoid rejection. So in psychological terms, this is sort of like a subpersonality, or what internal family systems calls a protector. So it means that inner critic is trying badly to help. It doesn't trust the world to accept the real imperfect you because your nervous system learned somewhere along the way that imperfection equals danger. So what do you do about it? You don't need to become less perfectionistic overnight. In fact, trying to perfect your healing would just be another perfectionist trap. Instead, start by getting curious. So, when do I feel the most pressure to get it right? What happens in my body when I think about failing? Whose voice does my inner critic sound like, if anyone? What would it mean if I let myself do something at 80% instead of 110%? From there, work on building internal safety. So this isn't just about thinking positive thoughts. It's about teaching your nervous system that imperfection isn't dangerous anymore. That means practicing rest, tolerating the discomfort of good enough, and naming and soothing the parts of you that panic when you're not performing. And yes, this is slow work. It's boring work, but it's also the kind of work that changes everything. So if you're anxious all the time, but still look like you're crushing it, there's a good chance you've been living in survival mode for so long that it just feels normal. But anxiety doesn't always mean something's wrong with you. Sometimes it's just a very old alarm system that's never been recalibrated. Perfectionism isn't who you are, it's something you learned. And that means you can unlearn it with the right support, the right tools, and a willingness to stop performing and start healing. So yeah, your life might look great, but if you're still waking up anxious for no reason, it might be time to look deeper.